Hey, everybody. This is Dan Eisenberg, and we are now at the 21st, believe it or not, episode of Scale App Podcasts. This has really been an exciting journey so far for me because I get to myself interact with and learn about, and then bring to you some of the most exciting scaling up ventures on the face of the planet. And we've met with companies from Turkey, from China, from Israel, from Germany, of course, from the United States, of course, from Silicon Valley, but that's not been the focus at all. And today we have with us a very interesting venture called Ketryx, and we have Erez Kaminsky as our guest today. Just say hi, Erez, so they hear your voice.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here, Dan. Thanks for inviting me.
And Erez has created a really unusual venture that's growing rapidly, as all of our ventures and guests are. And so we're going to spend the next 30 or 35 minutes together with Erez exploring what have been some of what the opportunity that he sees, what are some of the challenges, the pain points, the mistakes, the things that he got right, and just have a very honest conversation, because I think that's the best way for those of you who may be scaling your own companies someday to learn. You learn from examples. You learn from people who've sort of blazed the path before you, blazed the trail before you. So here we have Erez, and I haven't prepared him with any questions. This is a come as you are. So this is maybe a little bit of a surprise question just to start off with. Tell us, who is Erez Kaminsky, and don't say anything about Ketryx.
Wow, that's hard. That's a tough one. Who am I? I'm a husband, a soon-to-be father, a son. I'd say I'm a warrior and an athlete, and probably my biggest identification is that I'm a physicist by nature and by heart and by training. And you're always a physicist once you started to be. Mostly, I'm someone who is trying to help others innovate in medicine and help make things safer and better for patients.
Say just a couple of words about your career path, because it's true
Sure.
and relevant, right?
Yeah, so I've been managing people for a long time. I spent time in the military, and since I was like 19 or 20, I had about 30 direct reports. I moved to the U.S. originally to play football in a college in Birmingham, Alabama, called Birmingham Southern College. Studied physics and mathematics. Went to work as a physicist in Princeton on experimental fusion reactor. I published some work on that with some of the greatest scientists in the world, including Nat Fish, Ilya Dudin, many other kind of great minds. I ended up going into industry to work in a company called Wolfram Research that designs Wolfram Alpha, Mathematica, and the Wolfram Cloud, some of those advanced computing and AI systems around today, and worked directly to the kind of father of modern computing, Stephen Wolfram, who invented a lot of what we consider to be the computer interface and algorithmic product development, and abstract symbolic languages like Python are all based in this, Julia. I was then hired by Amgen, which is the world's largest biotechnology company, to be the head of AI for Amgen's medical device and drug delivery group. At Amgen, I saw how hard it is in biotech and in medtech to design, develop, test, and deploy highly regulated medical software, and ended up starting Ketryx.
So
From MIT at some point there in the
there are
story.
a couple of degrees from MIT, right? So there's actually, at least it looks like there's a direct line from Amgen to Ketryx. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and from Wolfram. Like, Ketryx is a developer tooling company like Wolfram that helps people like companies like Amgen design, develop, test, and deploy highly regulated AI, highly regulated software, highly regulated products like surgical robots and things of that nature at a fraction of today's time and cost, by reducing the amount of compliance work teams need to do and actually increasing the safety of the products.
Let's ask it a little differently. What is the pain point that you discovered that Ketryx is trying to solve? Start with the pain.
So the pain that Ketryx is trying to solve is how hard it is to basically create safe products that have robust compliance requirements. So let's say I want to make a medical device, right? Anywhere in the world, there's regulation about it. Let's say the FDA here in the US. The FDA says You got to explain to me exactly what this device does, exactly how you know you made it right, that the people who worked on it are well trained, whatever that means for you, that it is past testing, including in some cases clinical trial testing, to prove that the device work like you said it works. And then you need to generate documented evidence for every version of the device that could be reviewed and explain that it meets those requirements. While that sounds in some way overburdening and in another way very basic and minimal, the result of that is that, some products would require thousands of pages of evidence per version. And that's really, really complicated to make and do.
And that's changing, I imagine, if they fix a bug in the software or if they fix anything in the hardware, that also has to be documented, updated, reported on, and so on, right?
And then it's a new version of the product, 10,000 more pages. So, and this is true for all the industries in the world that matters the most: cars, spaceships, utilities, many financial industry instruments are based in this. And it's really hard to make products that we need to rely on, and products we need to rely on need to have evidence that they work. And so in the 80s, it used to take the average medical device about 50 pages to prove it works. And today that's already over 2,000 pages.
So, so can you quantify how painful this problem is in terms of hours or money or time to market?
Yeah, time to market, it's easy. In some companies, this would be 50% or more of the amount of time to market they have.
So is this the problem you're solving?
That's the problem I'm solving. How can I help people get safe medical innovation to market and safety critical innovation faster, um, while also not burning out their staff doing all this documentation work?
So without assuming that we're physicists like you are, um, how does AI get applied to make this process work?
Um, so AI is at the core of enabling this process to work faster. It's about interconnecting different systems and allowing both AI and validated automation to generate evidence based on those systems. I think AI is a great tool to create content. In this case, that content needs to be reviewed by people, right, to make sure it's safe. And it's all about how do you integrate that deep into these workflows in a way that is both um, patient level safety, right? Like it's safe and we're not having, me and you were talking earlier about hallucinations, right? Like you can't have a hallucination in a medical device that you mistakenly think it's doing the wrong thing, right? At least not unless you say that that's a possibility. And so we integrate AI to help generate content, to help consume and review content, to double check the work of people, and in much more complex ways. Like in our system, you can also use the AI to guide your work.
So you and I did talk about the hallucinations. Both of us expressed some frustration and some not so funny examples that we encountered ourselves. So I assume you don't just use Chat GPT to do
No, we
too,
use a
right?
very robust. Also, like we use many different providers, LLMs, including our partner companies' in-house LLMs that some of them are either customized or developed. We also have our own version that is more tied to this industry's vertical needs. And most importantly, we have an interface and a process and a rule engine that allows you to ensure that that output is reviewed in the right way by the right people at the right time.
So can you give us just a concrete example of a company that's using this and how they're using it? And I did see that you mentioned names on your website.
Yeah.
They're accurate or not, but
Yeah, so there's a lot of names I can't mention. We work with many of the world's largest companies, including three of the top five largest medical device manufacturers and largest pharma companies in the world as well. Um, but what I can mention is I can mention a wonderful company called HeartFlow. HeartFlow helps people all around the world in over 1,000 hospitals get early diagnosis for coronary, all kinds of heart diseases, cardiac diseases around, kind of plaque built up in your heart. Instead of an interventional stent or an interventional lead putting down into the heart to check for this, you could use a CT scan and get an equivalent result. For them, using our system reduced the complexity of their documentation by about 90% and achieved pretty massive acceleration. Another company we love to talk about is RadNet. RadNet Deep Health Same company is the world's largest or America's largest outpatient radiology center. And we've helped them develop an entire ecosystem of devices that use mainly AI to diagnose for all kinds of, I'd say, diseases, right? Pancreatic or cancer, breast cancer, things like that. I could say that there's a great company called Neutrino where we helped reduce their documentation time by about 90%.
These are really,
Companies,
yeah, so these are really tangible. And,
yeah, weekly release cycles where they're using AI to rapidly accelerate the compliance work and the rate in which they can bring products to the market.
so I'm going to try to ask a question that may be a little difficult. This sort of the marketing came up, the profession of marketing came up because people assume that we build a better mousetrap and the world will beat our path to the door. And marketing said, no, you've got to market it. It's not just having a better mousetrap. It sounds like, and I'm sure this is wrong, it sounds like you've just got a better mousetrap. And but it can't be that this just sells itself, right? What are some of the challenges you've had, not in building the product, but in actually getting it to market?
Yeah, well, it's all about go to market, right? It's like every step of the way you think this is the hardest thing. I'm honestly so fascinated on what's the next hardest thing for us after we figure out the whatever stage we're in. Um, you always think, man, would everybody care about this problem? And then would everybody care about the product we built to solve this problem? And then how can we scale up a go to market? We have a very kind of significant enterprise portion to our business. Not all our business is an enterprise because we also work with smaller innovators. But we also work with very large innovators and really our bread and butter, like me, head of AI for the world's largest biotech company. I understand the problems I had there and now solving those problems for others. So, it's very difficult to establish a large, strong enterprise motion. As everything in startups is hard, right? Establishing a large, strong product-led growth PLG motion is also hard. We have a bit of a combination of PLG and enterprise, but then scaling up, helping people understand the value, helping people understand that you're the right partner to take this risky next step and discover what AI can do for their company. It's all about that.
Well, and you mentioned risk. I mean, this is a very conservative industry by nature. It's heavily regulated, and so it's got to be careful. It's not made up of your swashbuckling, move fast and break things kind of people.
We believe move fast and break nothing.
And move fast and break nothing. So, how does a startup convince one of the sort of let's move slowly and make sure it works customer that they can sort of take a bet on you?
Because something has to change. Because it's just that critical. The problem is so big that something has to change now, Dan. Like it can't be that patients out there in the world are dying and we're sitting here working on paperwork. No one wants that. The FDA doesn't want that. The patients don't want that. The companies don't want that. And so I think there's just a huge need for it and a real pain. I think that companies know that something needs to change. I think employees aren't willing to work like this anymore. And most importantly, I think there is a generation in companies of innovative leaders that understand the critical importance of healthcare and healthcare safety, but also understand that if we want to do healthcare at a bigger scale, we need to figure out a way to innovate faster. And those are the people we find, right? Those innovative leaders that, if you think of like crossing the chasm, they're kind of on the right part of that trail for us. Early adopters or late adopters now as well that are trying to help us figure out how can we help them. Now it's about us to create the type of brand and service and product and process of us working together, making sure we have the right level of trust and making sure we actually deliver to them. And I think that's, we could talk about all the things you need to do, but fundamentally what you need to do is grab a group of early stage customers, find the right innovative people, and then deliver really well on the benefits and promise and ROI, and the rest kind of takes care of itself.
So the large pharmas, you didn't mention pharma, you mentioned primarily medical device companies.
We also work with large pharmas.
You have pharmas as well. Do you find that there are particular problems in working, let's say, with the top 10 of these huge conglomerates?
Yeah, let me tell you a problem that if they turn it on, they turn it on for millions of patients. Today, the product's been on the market for about 2 years, 2.5 years. We serve 25 million patients. We, 2% of all FDA AI approvals in 2024, the first full year of the product being on the market, were done in Ketryx. And so when that type of reach and that type of distribution and that level of criticality, by the way, safety criticality means the level of people you could reach. And if something happens, it's a lot of trust to turn something on for millions of patients. And I think what we did really well is we first focused on safe, then we focused on speed, then we focused on innovation, safe innovation. We're about accelerating safe innovation, and we made sure we do safe first.
So, what is your vision for Ketryx over the next, 3, 5, 10 years? Is it more of the same penetration, or do you see any kind of evolution of the company as it gets a foothold in the market?
I want Ketryx to be the fulcrum of safety critical product development and help people all around the world get access to better healthcare, better products that our life depends on, faster. And so,
Paper faster.
yeah, it's a lot of the same, but it's a lot of more. It's more workflows and more use cases we want to cover, better and more complete offerings as a platform in a company. It's about doing this for more parts of companies and then scaling up what we do for a lot of different folks in a lot of different industries. But the thing is, I'm focused most about is how do we make sure that we're driving an immense amount of value for people so they can see the real benefits of AI and agentic workflows within compliance.
And what is your business model? Uh,
You know,
how do you make money?
it's an AI system. You subscribe to it. Some of it is consumable, and as you use it, you tend to continue working on it.
What do you mean by consumable?
Oh, they use consumption based.
Oh, in terms of how much processing
Yeah, per
units?
usage is related to pricing, but and then a lot of it is seed based, right? It's combinations. Complicated.
Okay. Um, and let's talk about organization and then also about money. The sort of the two main resources you need to achieve that vision are people, I assume, and cash resources. You don't have material, et cetera. Uh, what have been some of the challenges and what have been some of the successes in building the team, and how are you going to grow that from here?
My business success is finding the right partner, Jan Poshko, who I worked with for a long time at Wolfram, and hiring a great group of people, great developers, Patrick Ecker, Anton Ryder, Milan Desnovic, who all work for us. Um, Hiring a great group of product leaders and customer success leaders and sales leaders, and then helping develop people. I think that's a big thing we're focused on now is how can we develop people to be bigger and better and faster and take on more responsibility. We really believe in the ability of individuals to achieve great things. And so we try to find great talent wherever it might be and help it grow. And so one of the things I'm proud the most about is how well we're doing with new college grads and how we can find amazing new college grads that can enter into the work environment and really learn how to become working professionals that can contribute substantially to our mission.
So, what's kind of your sweet spot of the kind of person that you'd like to bring in?
Top 0.1% performers, very high IQ, very high EQ, hardworking, and people who are looking to do something great with their lives.
Hold on, you said high IQ and high EQ.
Absolutely.
So, top 0.1% in IQ, let's say, or accomplishment, and that's a pretty narrow.
Yeah. So first of all, I didn't say 0.1% in any of these things. As people
Okay.
can hear 0.1%. But that can mean a lot of different things. That can mean you're really good at something and you're really good at something else and you're unique in some way. But we just want to work with great people and great people produce great things. And so I'd say, yeah, we're looking for smart people who are able to work in a high collaborative environment with a lot of pressure and work fast and grow. And we've been successful in finding those people.
And so how many people are in the company right now?
Getting close to 100.
Wow. Um, and let's talk a little bit about the cash resources.
Yeah.
You've raised money. Oh, I should disclose also, I'm an investor, a limited partner, passive investor in E14, which is one of your early supporters. I know
The
that.
earliest, it's the first one. And
Okay.
it
Well, say about,
reached
talk,
May 0.
talk to us a little bit about raising money, how that's been going.
I've been fortunate enough to have great investors and capital partners all along the way. Very early in ideation for the company, or kind of like after we finished the first set of designs, we decided, maybe now it's a good time to take a few meetings with investors. The first investors we met were actually Calvin Habib and E14. And they invested in us very early,
Why did you choose them? I understand why they chose you. Why did you choose them?
I think they understood the problem we're facing because they've seen a lot of medical device and software as medical device companies like Overjet and others, which is a great dental AI company.
Yeah.
And they realized the size of the opportunity in front of them. And I just knew that they could give me the right early stage guidance because they've been down this path before. And I just clicked with them. I knew we would have wonderful board meetings, wonderful days together, and at the end of the day, that was the right choice for us.
And how have they helped?
How have they helped? So I think one is they helped us ideate on like how do we want the structure of the company to be? What are the type of people we want to have part in? They brought us customers. More importantly than anything else, I will not forget that I was sitting one day with Calvin and people talking about how we want an expert in AI and FDA. And Calvin said, what about this guy? And he just found someone on LinkedIn and we all agreed, let's go cold call him. And he was one of our first US employees. He was the former head of FDA Software Engineering Lab. So shout out to Calvin for getting that done. It was pretty amazing. It was a huge contribution for us, and he helped set us in the right path.
And since E14, you brought in other investors so far?
Yeah, Ubiquity Ventures, 53 stations, Lightspeed Venture Partners, Guru Chahalat Lightspeed has been a wonderful board member and mentor and guide, and he's just one of the most brilliant B2B SaaS investors I've ever met and or ever heard of. And he knows so much as a founder and an operator and an investor about what it means to build kind of generational enterprise SaaS companies and enterprise AI companies. And then most recently, we had a new round, a Series B led by Transformation Capital and Vinay Shah, who's just a brilliant healthcare investor and understand what life science companies are looking for and how you want to work with them to make sure that it works out. And so we've been very, very fortunate to find kind of some of the best seed investors in E14 and Ubiquity Ventures. Some of the best kind of early stage investors in Guru Chahal, the very best as far as I'm concerned. And then the great early stage growth investors in healthcare, Transformation Capital, which is one of the best funds in the world in early stage healthcare growth.
So you have now capital for a while to keep implementing your plans. So that's not right now is not an issue. Um, what do you see in the next, let's say, couple of years as some of the challenges that you might be facing?
Execution, growing the company, making sure I can train a large team over an extremely complex problem. The surface of the problem we're working on is very complicated. It integrates kind of both um, computer science and developer tooling with the regulation, with the particular application in medicine, and helping people understand that fundamentally and train them to be uh, amazing quality assurance, regulatory validation, developer tooling, implementation, team members. I think that's our challenge, and that'll be our challenge I expect for a very long time if we're lucky. And then how do you scale that up and continue to build a bigger company and bring all the right leaders? We have a great set of leaders in place, and we just want to keep growing that.
As I sit and talk to you, and unfortunately, everyone else is listening and not seeing, but I quite frankly get the impression of you as a really good leader. And it's not just the way you talk, but it's also your demeanor. it makes me feel confident and makes me feel like, I could tie my future to this person or this team. What are some of the things in your background that sort of gave you formative experiences in becoming a leader?
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that, Dan. I really appreciate that.
I've never said that before, but I do feel that.
I think I'm an okay leader. I think there's a lot of room to grow. I've seen some amazing leaders in my life, and I think there's so much room to grow and build in how you communicate, how do you inspire trust, how do you create a clear vision and a clear plan of execution for a team. Um,
But go back in your own
yeah, I'll just finish with
previous.
one thing, and then I want to go back to that. But fundamentally, I believe that any person I want to work with is looking for three things. Um, they're looking for goals, mentors, and a community to help them achieve those goals. And that's kind of how I plan my life. And the people I'm looking to hire here is who wants to go through a transformational journey to achieve goals, set up a new set of goals with the right set of mentors and a community, which is the other people in the company. And at the end of the day, a company is just a group of people that have a shared vision. Um, and so I'd say that managing both of my parents are kind of executives in their own ways. My mom is a very well-known physician who runs a large ward um, in a surgeon in kind of ENT and cochlear implantations back home. Uh, I've learned a lot from her about managing in a hospital setting. My grandmother was a head nurse, so there's not a much more difficult jobs than being a head nurse of a hospital. My father is a well-known basketball coach, and I'd say that he understands more about the development of people than any person I've ever met in my life. And um, I was never a great basketball player. I was never even a great football player, and I'm an okay football player, but he is just an unbelievable coach. And I still to this day talk to people, sometimes even clients of ours that used to be coached by him. And we just have this deep connection because he's impacted a lot of life. As time progresses, by the time I was 19 and a half, I had around 30 soldiers reporting to me with a lot of independence. So I learned very early about leadership. By the time I was 18 and a half, I already had like 4 soldiers, and it continued to progress. And then I was fortunate enough to be in a series of really high performing organizations, both my time in the military and my time playing football in a pretty great program under Coach Garfinkel, Eddie Garfinkel in Birmingham Southern College. Had a great team. I met there one of my lifelong mentors, General Charles Krulak, who I'd say taught me a lot about managing. He's a former commandant of the Marine Corps and helped me figure out what I want to do in life and who I want to be. And he's just a wonderful leader. And if you've ever have an opportunity to watch some of his talks in the Naval Academy, uh, that dude knows more about leadership than I could ever imagine to learn. I then went to work for a series of CEOs who are just amazing CEOs. And I'd say what I'm fortunate the most is I worked in great places. And I think what like great leaders look like in a variety of situations. Um, it always comes back to me to trying to connect with people. That's what you learn the most in the army. Um, Today, I'd say that it's sad to me because I can't always do that. I'd rather spend my days connecting to all of my team and helping them kind of inspire themselves. When you have 100, it's a little hard because you don't have enough time to spend with everybody. I'd love to have 100 hours a day and spend an hour every day with every employee to help them discover and unlock themselves. But now it's a lot about doing that with leaders to help them unlock themselves.
Right. So we're going to have to keep this short, even though I'd like to keep talking.
Yeah.
This is our footprint uh, is we let people turn this on when they get ready to go shopping and finish by the time they're checking out. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and that is, if you were to meet your younger self, let's say 18-year-old just coming out of high school, and who had sort of a, a bee in his bonnet, or her bonnet for that matter, uh, that wanted to start something, what advice would you give him or her based on your experience?
Figure out what excites you. Like I know for me, for example, I really want to do healthcare. I really want to do something. Is that really important to you, right? Like the mission or not the mission? Figure out how um, you can learn about a great problem and you can learn about building a company and find the right mentors. Like some people are way better entrepreneurs than I am and could just do this straight out of college or before college and between college. I don't think I was ready for that, but I think there are great people around there that can do that. For the rest of the humans, right, we need to go learn. And so I think going to one of the best entrepreneurship advices I got at MIT was, instead of starting a company, maybe go work for a big tech executive. I was fortunate enough to work for Stephen Wolfram, who really taught me the works of how do you build software and how do you build enterprise motions. Um, and I'd say that that's a good advice. Learn a problem, learn how to do it, and see what greatness is. But then I'll say that don't spend too much doing that because too much time, because there's nothing like doing it. You could spend, within the first month of doing this, you will learn more than talking about it for 5 years.
Right. It's funny. Everybody that I've talked to so far, I'd say, who've talked about that aspect has said, do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait too long. It's interesting. Well, Erz Kaminsky, thank you very much for joining us. This has been an exciting conversation. I'm sure people will find a lot of value in it. I certainly do and did. This is Scale Up Podcast, reminding everybody I'm Dan Eisenberg. This is a serious hobby for me. It's free. I do it because I'm just excited to get a front row seat in watching these companies grow and go out and make a positive impact on the world, on their customers, first and foremost, on their employees, on themselves, build wealth. And so it's been really exciting to have you, Erez, and thank you very much. And everybody of my listeners, look forward to having you listen in on some more great conversations. Erez, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dan. Have a great day.